The Legend series has talked to great champions and great racers. All of them have passion and self-belief, but none have excited the sport or divided the sport quite like Ayrton Senna. Exhibitions like this one to commemorate the 20th anniversary of his death at Imola help us to examine whether he was a kind of reckless renegade or perhaps the greatest of all time. But one thing is certain, Ayrton Senna was an outstanding legend of Formula One.
There is a star that lights the road. I'll take this ride and just drive. I wanna be the only one to make it to the light. I'll take it to the edge of ride. And maybe I could be the one right to the setting sun tonight.
He got the best out of everybody. That's what he was good at. And on the track and a racing car, he was extraordinarily special.
Ayrton was special because Ayrton was above of everyone.
Ron Emerson said to me, "You keep watching this guy, he's going to become one of the greatest in the sport." He never said more true words.
Well, Senna was like no other driver that I have ever met before or since.
He's different, and he was different.
He had this belief that he had a God-given right to win.
Ayrton was always an example for myself personally. He tried to teach me stuff through experience, not only by telling me, and I had a good share of time, you know, just enjoying family time, but also some competitive time with him. He was always the one who would go to the limits and sometimes beyond, but not in a way that he didn't respect it. He always did respect the danger.
Ayrton Senna, a Formula One racing career that spanned March 1984 to May the 1st, 1994. 41 race victories with Lotus and with McLaren, 3 world titles, all of them with McLaren. But everyone who raced against him in this period seemed to have an opinion, especially about his strong sense of self-belief that sometimes went beyond the spirit of the sport. And that self-belief showed itself early on, abandoning a young marriage and a comfortable life back in Brazil to try to establish himself in British single-seater racing. Back then, the ideal route into Formula One.
I got on great with him because, you know, 110% focus on the job you're doing, and you couldn't get a better guy. He was, he'd ring me up after a test day. "Dickie, I just remember that, you know, that test we did, you know, the car was doing this, the car was doing that." And this was 3 or 4 days after you'd been running.
But when he was younger, he really loved life and he loved his racing, but he didn't really like the politics and all the stuff that went with Formula One. It wasn't him.
He was talking about the best times of his racing career was when it was simple, when he went racing with Terry Fullerton in the go-karts. And he seemed to hark back to a kind of time, sort of, you know, a sort of halcyon time when he was younger, when it was just all so simple, and that's unfortunately Formula One, isn't it? It's full of complex things you'd rather not have to deal with. And you just want to get on with the driving and simply going as fast as you can, but it's not like that.
I am, like he said, still young, 31, but I've been involved in motor racing from 4 years old, believe me. And when I come to England in 1981 to participate in the Formula 4 Championship, was my first season of racing cars. Until then was only go-karts. And I've been through several seasons here in different categories, successfully, fortunately. And lots of the things that I learned and that I've subsequently use in Formula One have come from England, because here I learned how to race as a professional, I learned how to observe the flags, I learned how to follow the marshals, the starting procedures, the testing procedures, setup of cars, the relationship with the engineers, mechanics, team owners, team managers, and that has made a lot of my personality in terms of motor racing. I know that often I don't get the best press in England, but I suppose nobody's perfect. I try hard, and I try hard to be better, to improve. And I'd just like to say thank you to all of those people here in England that have given me the opportunity from 1981 to come through all the way, and in such a relatively short period of time, get so much success. Thank you.
Ayrton Senna dominated the British Formula Ford scene in 1981 and 1982, but it was only by making big financial and personal sacrifices that he was able to extend his career into the 1983 British Formula 3 Championship. The season became a classic, as Senna, who should have dominated the campaign, came under increasing pressure from Martin Brundle. There were desperate moments as he tried to fend off Brundle's challenge. He eventually claimed the title at the final round, but he'd made very hard work of it.
I had to sit him down a couple of times because he just didn't want to finish second. You know, comfortable points in the bag, but no, he'd have a go at taking for the lead and would have an accident. So I think if he was just so determined to win all the time.
The potential was clear. Despite overtures from McLaren and a test with Williams, Senna wanted to keep financial control of his career, so his entry into Formula One in 1984 was further back down the grid.
1984, the Monaco Grand Prix, Ayrton Senna was driving a Tolman, a British car which hadn't got a prayer of winning against the competition that he was against, like Alain Prost in the McLaren.
Prost is waving his hand. Prost goes through, waving his hand at the officials. He wants to stop the race, and who can blame him? Now, I'm just waiting for Senna to come through, and the gap as Senna goes through, quite dispassionately, is down to 11 seconds. He's taken 4 seconds out of Prost's lead.
Because he was a great driver in the wet, he clawed his way through the field. We got to the end of the race. Ayrton Senna was closing up on him, and he actually passed him on the finish line.
And Prost is stopping, and Senna crosses the line before he gets there. Now that's amazing. Prost has stopped actually on the line. Senna passed him as he got to the line.
It will be really a tragic result for Senna. However, he's not about to be world champion this year. He will undoubtedly be world champion in the future if his career continues.
After Tolman came his 3 seasons with Lotus, and the breakthrough victory, also in rain-soaked conditions, came in the 1985 Portuguese Grand Prix at Estoril, only his second race for the team.
The man of the 1985 Portuguese Grand Prix is and has been, all through practice and all through the race, this man, Ayrton Senna, in the JPS team Lotus. Out goes the checkered flag, and Senna has won. Look at him, both hands waving with joy.
Well, I'm very happy to be the one that managed to prove that the Lotus car is not only quick in qualifying conditions, but even in race conditions, although it was wet.
5 more victories followed at Lotus, and in 1988, having proved his pace and his front-running qualities, he moved to join Alain Prost at McLaren, and one of the sport's fiercest rivalries was created. He brought with him the support of engine supplier Honda, and at least at the outset, he seemed to have the surprising support of his teammate as well.
We are having a meeting with the Honda people, and they wanted to have Nelson as a driver. And I said, and Nelson was a good friend. He was always close to me. I did not know Ayrton very well at the time. But I said, why Nelson? If you want to make a strong team, take the best. Take the youngest, take the one for the future, take Ayrton. And they all looked at me. I said, why do you want to take Ayrton? He said, for the interest of the team, take Ayrton. Ask them if it's not true, it's take Ayrton.
Just
1988, Ayrton Senna joins Alain Prost in the McLaren team, now powered by Honda engines and clearly the strongest team in the sport. One of their drivers was surely going to win the title. But which one, and what was the best way to handle and manage the two most ambitious, motivated drivers on the grid?
Oh, we were excited. For sure, we knew it was going to be fireworks, but we were expecting it, you know, and Ron was expecting it too, because you can manage them for a while, but after a while, you have a time bomb, you know, ready to go in any time, and eventually did.
Well, there was nothing more certain, as far as I was concerned, that it was going to go wrong. The challenge was how to keep it at least sensibly balanced, and but being very competitive, having traits both as a Brazilian and a Frenchman, nationalistic traits that I'd experienced in previous drivers. That you have to manage, you have to take that into account. And when we had big explosions, they were big and required a firm hand. And strangely, because you had both of them in the team, you could push very hard on an individual, because of course the consequences would be they wouldn't be in the team, and we were the dominant force at the time. But occasionally their behaviour was equally bad, and therefore you had to deal with both of them, and that required a very different approach.
What started developing there were little separate cliques and discussions and corners and things. So I put a stop to that, and I wanted everything done in front of everybody else. So the engineers running those cars had to be out in the open. I loved working with them both, particularly Ayrton, with the strategy, because he had some great ideas on finding spots for empty laps for qualifying and stuff. He was a very deep thinker on the strategic stuff, and people always used to say, he's fantastic at getting clear laps, but it was really easy. It was just standing on the pit wall with a radio, and he was in the car, psyching himself up, ready to go, and looking for a gap and sending him out at the right time,
Prost won in Brazil, Senna took victory at the San Marino Grand Prix. But it was the Monaco Grand Prix, a race that Senna was dominating, that also showed his immaturity as a racer and a character.
Ayrton had nearly a minute's lead.
Senna leading by 40 seconds now, an enormous margin.
And then suddenly Alain went by Gerhard.
Prost is taking, he's done it! Prost has taken Berger.
And then started carving lap record after lap record, and taking 2-3 seconds a lap on Senna. And Ron just mad, he keeps shouting, he's not going to catch you, it's impossible, never catch you, slow down. And Alain kept going quicker, so he kept looking at the board, Alain closer and closer, and he lost control. He just got to port here and kicked the inside barrier.
That is Senna! Sensation! On lap 67, Ayrton Senna goes out of the lead of the Monaco Grand Prix at the Portier.
Conveniently, his flat was very close there, so he just walked to his flat and didn't contact us or anything. And I spent all afternoon, the rest of the afternoon, ringing, and first they didn't answer anybody. Later on, they answered, and it was Isabel, I think was her name, the lady that looked after the flat. And he said, Isabel, tell him it's Joe, I want to talk to him. No one else, it's Joe. No, Senor Ayrton is not here. I said, oh, come on, I know he's here. And every time I ring, he said to me the same. Finally, at 9 o'clock, he said, please, Isabel, I know he's there. And then I heard Ayrton, yes, give me the phone. And he was still crying at that time. He said, I don't know what happened. I must be the most idiot man in the world. He said, the steering wheel came off my hand when he hit. It didn't come off his hand, but he said that was the expression that he said when he hit so hard from that he had to take his hands off. It's just over. There's one of those mistakes that he wouldn't, I'm sure, he'd never forgotten and never forgive himself.